This is the JFJ Conspiracy, where the shop talk is rough.
Hello, I'm Jim.
And I'm Frank.
And I'm Jerry.
And this is the JFJ Conspiracy. How you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Very good. It's been a good week.
Yes, it has.
Before we get jumping right into this podcast, this is our second podcast, but this is our first podcast on Veterans Day. And I want to give a shout out to all veterans all across America and abroad and give them a great big thank you. And that's you included, Jerry.
I appreciate that very much, Frank. I was happy to serve. And again, happy Veterans Day to all the wonderful men and women out there serving and who have served and who shall serve. God bless America, guys.
God bless America. I echo everything you guys just said.
Okay, let's jump right into this. Before we get to our songs and our picks and our classic album, let's talk about The End of the Road.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Jerry, tell me, what are your feelings about it?
Well, whatever they choose to do, I'm good. I just, whenever I think about Kiss, I just go back to the 70s when they were just so huge and I couldn't wait for an album to come out. As far as this incarnation here, more power to them. It is what it is. I own Sonic Boom and Monster. They're good Kiss albums, but I'd need the original four. Either that, or if I'm just old enough now, I've seen them twice in my lifetime, I might be good with it. I would love if they did another studio album, but I won't be going to any concerts, put it that way.
All right. What about you, Jim?
Well, I have on a few occasions already with you guys expressed my displeasure at the fact that Tommy and Eric are wearing, Ace and Peter's makeup.
Yeah.
And so for this tour, what are they doing? They're adding some extra songs and they're adding a few more explosions. No thanks. I mean, it's not
uniforms and some new uniforms
and some new costumes. Okay, great. If they told me that they were going to tour with Ace, I would maybe consider it.
Same here.
But not interested in going and seeing them rehashing the same old. I saw them on the reunion tour with the four original guys, and that kind of closed it out for me.
I did too, Jim. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. My first concert was the Kiss Alive 2 recordings at the Forum as a wee lad.
Oh yeah,
my parents took me, but I want to tell you a quick story. My grandfather's brother was my great Uncle Al. And Uncle Al used to tell stories, and he had a twinkle in his eye, and he'd talk about World War II, and he'd talk about the days in New York and the days in Philadelphia, and I would sit there and just listen to him. And he would go on, and I don't know if everything he was saying was true or not, but I loved listening to him talk.
I love it.
Yeah, and when I was in my 40s, Uncle Al died, and I went with my mother. Absolutely. I went with my mother to the funeral, and my son, Dominic, before I went, he said, "Dad, can you get a picture of Uncle Al? I want to see what Uncle Al looks like."
Yeah.
And so while, everything's going on, I snuck into the viewing room, and I took my camera out, and I took a picture of Uncle Al. And unfortunately, he looked more like Grandpa Munster.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
That's how I remember my great Uncle Al as Grandpa Munster now.
Wow.
That's kind of how it is with Kiss.
They look like Grandpa Munster to you?
Absolutely. When I saw a lot of the video clips on YouTube of the cruise that just took place this past week.
I've seen a couple. Oh, Lord.
Gene looks sad, dude. You remember when we were young, you couldn't see through the makeup.
No.
You saw these ferocious faces through this makeup, and they were those characters.
And they were taking the stage. They were attacking it.
Absolutely. And now when I see Gene, and you see sadness almost with him just standing there and with shame, and part of me thinks maybe that's because he knows it's not all live.
Right.
That's one of his things that he's always hoot and hollered about is the live. We do it live, and
That's right.
Right.
there's a lot of speculation of whether or not it's all live. And I just, if you were just to watch Gene alone, you could see. I don't think this is as fun as it used to be.
I don't think so either.
They're just counting dollars. That's all.
Absolutely.
But anyways, enough of that. I digress.
Enough
We're
digression.
We're all with you though, Frank, because I just remember back in the day they were just such a super strong band. It is what it is. And I saw him in April of 2017, and Paul's voice was just done. So what do we do, guys? Do we listen to him sing live like that, or do we just not look at his lips moving when he's lip syncing? I don't know.
I don't know what the answer is to that, because I'll give you this: Tommy and Eric are tighter players than Peter and Ace. But you know what? That was part of the charm of Kiss. Is Ace's sloppiness and Peter's jazzy grooves.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm at this time I'm a pass. I'm gonna say it's been real. I've seen them, like you said, the reunion. I saw a couple of the farewell shows the last go round.
Mm-hmm.
Was lucky enough to see them, with Aerosmith and in different incarnations. So it's been good, but I think it's time to hang it up.
Well,
I think it probably was time to hang it up a little while back, and just been kind of flogging that horse for a while. Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know us personally or anything else, I mean, there was a point when Kiss was kind of everything for us.
Absolutely.
Everything for us. I mean, just the influence on everything we said, we did, what we wore. I mean,
room was full of posters. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I mean, the first real band that I just fell in love with.
I would agree.
Just the first band I really fell in love with. And
I would agree.
I wholeheartly agree with you. It's what.
So it's sad to kind of see what it's become. Paul hasn't been able to sing in a long time. Really.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's enough of Debbie Downer. Let's bring this up a little bit.
Let's move on.
Let's jump into our picks this week.
All right.
I'm trying to say, right off the bat, you guys went with the estrogen on me. So let's start it off with Jim and your pick.
Okay. So my pick is a band called The Beths, and they are a 4-piece group out of Auckland, New Zealand. They just released. Well, it's not just released. I think this came out in July, so it's a few months back. It's their first full length. They had a EP in 2016. But this is their first full length recording, and I found these. I found this band actually through a post in a Facebook group that I belong to. That's a power pop group, and a friend of mine had gone to see him. I guess they toured here in the U.S., and so got to see him and was kind of raving about him. And so I checked him out, and I really like him. And so this song is called "Future Me Hates Me." So,
well, let's give it a listen, and then we'll talk about it.
All its wild design for everyone that
I like that, Jim. Wow.
And now, are they all actually named Beth, or their name is it Lydia?
No, actually, the lead singer is named Beth, and but it's her and three other guys that she hooked up with in the university. They were studying. They're all jazz players, actually, which is a little strange because this is like a jangly guitar pop kind of tune, and that's kind of their sound. And
I like
I was taken back almost to like the Plimsolls, almost in an '80s pop sound to me, and I don't know why that. While I was listening to that, I was thinking of the movie Valley Girl, and
oh wow, very good.
Okay,
yeah, and it took me kind of to that era. So,
well, I've listened to their stuff, and if you go on YouTube, you look up some of their videos, and the songs are smart, lyrically smart, and when you see the visuals, completely unpretentious. They have a sense of humor about themselves that is very refreshing, I think. There's no rock star posturing or anything like that. They're not bending over backwards to try to look cool or anything else, but just
it's about the music.
Yeah, it's about the music and fun. So I kind of looked up to see if they were around, if they were playing out any. Seems they're in Europe right now. If you want to see them, they'll be at South by Southwest in March of 2019. So if you're in the Austin area or planning on going to South by Southwest, you can maybe find them there.
And that is the place to be for new music.
Yeah.
It is taken over, that's for sure. All right. Well, I like I said, that's right through that pop vein that I know you like. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
I'm curious now.
I think you're less enamored of it than Jerry and I, but
I like a little more grit,
a little more crunch. Well, when you said Plimsolls, I mean, to me, Plimsolls are a little grittier, a little.
Well, I was trying to be as nice about it as possible.
I love them. I think they're great. Good fun songs.
All right, now let's move over to some more estrogen, Jerry.
Yeah.
What have you got for us?
I've got this young lady named Anna Schultz, and it's Schulze. I Googled it to make sure it's pronounced that way. And she's this young lady from Indianapolis, Minnesota, studied music at USC. She's got some influences like Liz Phair, The Replacements, Stones, Sheryl Crow. And she has an album out called Pickford Market that was released in February of 2016. She's done a remake of Sex on Fire by the Kings of Leon. She's done a remake of Going to California by Zeppelin. And the song you're going to play, it just hooked me as soon as I heard it. And she also is in a duet with this other woman under the name of Roscoe and Etta, if you care to look that up. But yeah, I've just been enamored with her. I've been into her about a week, 10 days, and I just like it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
All right. Well, let's give Anna Schultz a listen.
There we go.
Sip your lemonade. I wear your wedding ring, a hand grenade. I take my coffee just the same as you. Yeah, I do everything just like you. I change my hair, change the way that I dress. I face my way out of loneliness. My favorite color's now the shade of your eyes. I'm a chameleon, could come change my mind. Yeah, you're stronger, you're smarter. To be like you, I'd do anything to be like you. We go to church and I sing and pretend. I sold my soul for a Mercedes Benz. Yeah, I spend money like I own the place. I sip your rosé with a smile on my face. Yeah, I'm a shadow, you're the sun in my eyes.
that's Anna Schultz.
Beauty.
Beautiful. That's got a little bit more teeth to it, a little more grit. I really like the drums on that.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and I, as a home recording enthusiast, I'm always just blown away when you hear studios get real drum sounds like that. It sounded great. What did you think, Jim?
I really liked it. I listened to a few of her songs, and I like her in general. I think she's really gutsy studying music at USC, because I know what it costs to go to USC.
Yeah.
I think that's a bold move, but she studied with Glenn Ballard, I read. One of the great producers, and he was kind of her mentor. If you go on our webpage, there's actually, I think, a little quote from Glenn where he talks about how much he likes her. And but yeah, great little songstress. Good songs. She's got some other stuff. She's got a guy she plays with, a guitarist who plays some really out there kind of solos. But I give that definitely an A+.
I really liked it. Very modern sounding. Didn't take me back to the 80s, and made me feel like this is something that we're listening to contemporary right now. Real good.
Beautiful.
And she does have albums on iTunes, Jerry, is that what you said?
Yes, Pickford Market, it's called. Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to move forward, and my pick this week is an artist. He's a musician by the name of Lee Crabb. It's Krabbe, and if I've mispronounced your name, I do apologize, but when I put it in Siri, she told me it was Crab.
There you go.
I'm telling you right now, Siri cannot be trusted all the time.
No.
Sure she can. Lee's a homegrown musician. He records and produces his own stuff, and he works on films and commercial projects. He's got a webpage that kind of has a paragraph, tells you all about him, and he'll do studio work. I think he'd prefer to work out of his own home, but I think he'll come to yours if the price is right. But that's the case with just about any musician, I think.
Heck yeah.
You know, on his website, which is leecrab.com, he's got about 24 songs on there, and I chose a song called Weightless. And the reason I chose it is it grabbed me right off the bat. And I feel like that he also does, I guess he does music, worship music with his church and everything also. So that's
always good. That's always good.
Yeah, he's quite the performer. So let me play this song for you. It's called Weightless. And you guys tell me who you think it slightly reminds you of. I've got a band in mind, and it's not a bad thing at all. I'll tell you what, it was a real good thing to hear. Here we go with Weightless.
Can you hear me as if I'd anything to say in this quiet desperation? Turn away. Can't break the silence, though I'm screaming at the wall, into the empty. Unanswered voices rise and fall. Weightless, I'm running. Stay
That, my friends, is rock and roll.
That's
That
heavy
is rock
duty.
and roll.
That's heavy duty, Frank. I like that.
This guy is multi-talented. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Check him out on his website, and he's got a wide variety of music.
Wow.
He's got layers upon layers of guitars, and I'm just in awe of his playing. But that particular track, to me, took me to a time where I was listening to Creed.
Oh,
Okay.
You guys may not have seen that, and I may be way off base, but that's what I thought of when I heard
I don't think you're too far off base, Frank. No.
I had a different take on it because I listened to a few of his songs, and he has like kind of this little vocal moment that happened, and I thought Lane Staley.
Yeah.
So I went. I kind of get an Alice in Chains vibe from he's doing there. Not quite as maybe not quite as gritty as an Alice in Chains, but that's it. You know, you talked about the Beths taking you back to the 80s. This takes me back to the early 90s.
Wow.
And it's a polished sound, though. It was really he's well produced on the stuff that he does. I love the guitars have a lot of different tones to them, and he's gotten that down. I'll give him that much.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I totally agree on the production. I mean, all the stuff I listened to just sounded, so well done.
Very slick, very, very good stuff.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing for sure.
But you say slick, but not to the point of overproduced. I mean, it's.
Well, there was a time when slick.
It's raw slick. It's raw slick.
It's in a way that it sounds professional.
Yes.
And when we go back to older classic rock albums and everything, and I was just reading on this the other day, and they were talking about the reason those albums sounded so sterile was because they didn't have proper reverb like they do now. Everything now they can simulate anything now.
Yeah.
The digital realm. Back in the old days, it was what was in the room, and they had some spring reverb, and that was it. So the older albums had a stale sound to them almost.
Yeah.
But that was the sound of vinyl that we grew up on.
Yep.
This here, like I say, Lee's stuff sounds polished. It sounds like it fits like a glove. The whole thing just goes hand in hand. He's just top-notch performer.
I like it.
Yeah. Again, you can check him out at leecrab.com. He's got some music available on iTunes. You can also buy music directly from his website. I highly recommend him, and check him out, and let me know what you think.
Oh, yeah. Will do. I like that.
Good deal. And like I said, I know you guys like the pop music a little more, but I tend to lean a little bit towards the heavier stuff and enjoy that just a little bit. Well,
that's why we always talk about music. That's exactly why.
That's true.
That's part of it.
Yep.
Let's move on to this album here, this classic rock album, because I listened to it probably 3 times since we decided we were going to be discussing it. And I tell you what, guys, UFO is an awesome band.
Oh,
absolutely.
Heck yeah.
I have a feeling that you're not going to like what I have to say.
Well, that's all right. That's why we're part of the conspiracy.
Yeah, absolutely. The album we're talking about is Strangers in the Night. It is awesome 1979 double live album. At the time when it came out, I bought it on LP. I know, Jerry, you said you got it as a Christmas gift.
Yes, I did. UFO, Strangers in the Night, when I was 16 for Christmas. Oh, I'll never forget it. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I'll never forget it. Oh, boy.
Awesome.
It was produced by Ron Nevinson, who, who hasn't he worked with?
Right.
Good point.
That guy's been with. It seems like the producers that worked with these people, they were in a tight knit community because they worked with all the great bands of the time. So he did a good job with the live album. That's for sure.
Yeah. Interestingly, I guess Mike Klink was the engineer on that. Same guy who produced Appetite for Destruction.
Wow.
And that was several years before that ever
Good
came
stuff,
around.
Jim.
Yeah. I have to say, for me, my favorite track on that album is "Only You Can Rock Me."
That was the big radio hit, I think, wasn't it?
It was a big hit, but it was I preferred it off their studio. I had their studio albums.
Yeah, the live does sound better. I agree.
Yeah, the live does have something, but my problem with that live album is Phil Mogg sounds so confused throughout the whole thing.
Right. It's
I'm
your
sure he
copyright
was.
laws. It's your copyright laws.
Yeah. Oh, well, he was having issues.
Huh?
They were changing out mics while in between songs. They were telling him to delay,
Stall, yeah,
Stall.
delay, yeah.
And he didn't know if he's supposed to tell jokes or dance or what. But his banter in between the songs are not well rehearsed at all.
No.
That's what made it a good live album, but at the same time, it made it a sloppy live album.
Yeah.
It was a true recording of their live show, with the exception of a couple of songs. Was it? Gosh, can you guys?
Mother Mary and This Kids.
Yeah, This Kids. Those are actually studio tracks. They added live audience sound over because they wanted the album to be a true representation of their live show.
Oh, okay.
And the original album, I guess, didn't have those songs on it.
Wow.
And they added it in, later on to like the second and third pressings and whatever, because UFO wanted a, actual representation. But it's sad because this album was the reason Michael Shankner left.
Wow.
Not only because of his drug addictions and his demons and everything else.
Yeah.
He refused to do overdubs. He said, it's a live album. Why are we doing overdubs?
Oh, wow.
And that's when he walked out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I always thought...
I was going to say, Frank, sorry to interrupt. I always wondered why, because, that seemed to me, that put him right out there on top. And then I remember hearing he left. I was like, I don't get that, but now I do.
When Phil Mogg said, we're sorry, we're changing out the mics, I always thought that meant they had a new guitar player. I thought he walked off the stage then.
Somebody else going to plug in and tune up.
A different mic was coming out to play guitar.
Yeah.
Now, before I turn it over to you guys, I want to say my least favorite songs are Love to Love and Out on the Street and I'm a Loser. 3 of them. And you know why? It's them cheesy keyboards.
Wow.
I love all those songs.
Though all 3 of them, I don't like them on the studio, and I don't like the keyboards on the live album either, because this was the beginning of heavy metal, that the hard rock, and then here you have these little keyboard,
Electric piano sound, yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah, what's weird is the keyboards seem much hotter in the mix on the live album than they do in the studio versions. Love to Love's, a ton of keyboard in that, but but it was amazing when I went back and listened to it. I was like, man, I don't remember the keyboards being this high in the mix.
No, they were prominent, very prominent. And that reminds me of kind of like, when Dio decided that he was going to split heaven and hell because he wanted his vocals louder, and I could see them fighting over everybody wants their music louder in the mix.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was kind of, goes back to the Black Sabbath days.
Yeah.
But anyways, Jim, what's your favorite song on that album?
You're killing me. Okay, so my favorite song is the closer, Shoot Shoot. There's nothing on this album I don't like.
Same here.
I almost think it's like, best of UFO live. It's all the good songs. They added some on later on, I guess. They added Cherry and a couple other songs when they reissued it. They added 2 other tunes. I don't remember what they was. I only went back to the original because I thought that's kind of what we were discussing here. If I was gonna say least favorite song on it, maybe Let It Roll.
Really?
Yeah, a rockin' tune, but not one of my favorite UFO songs at all. So I read up kind of a lot this week on the album, and there's one website or list or something. They listed as the second greatest live album ever. After
better be behind Kiss Alive 1.
It wasn't Kiss Alive 1. It was Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous.
Oh.
And you guys know of my love for Thin Lizzy.
Yeah.
Um,
Documented.
but I don't think Live and Dangerous is as good as Strangers in the Night. I just don't.
Wow.
I think it's a better album. Is it the greatest live album ever released? It's up there, I think. We talked on the phone last week, and you probably remember, Frank, I told you, I said, some of this sounds like it was highly overdubbed or done in the studio. And then I read that same thing you read about, Mother Mary and This Kids. They set up in the studio and did it live. Andy Parker says that they used their exact same live setup and everything else. I don't remember what the reason was. I don't remember if they didn't get a good cut when they recorded it or what the reason was for doing that. But he claims it's as live can be because set up and did it live. But as soon as you're in the studio doing it, it changes the dynamic. I mean, it allows you to. Nobody says how many takes they did. Just live in the studio, right?
And I know it's allegedly recorded all in Chicago, but there are notes. There were some other shows that were blended in as well.
Yeah.
5 shows, I think, overall.
And that's how most live albums are done, anyways. They tell you one venue, and then you find out later, it was recorded in a airplane hangar, and
so yeah, somewhere else. Well, I think they only ended up using recordings from 2 nights overall, but it was a mix of those 2 nights, and maybe none of it was actually done in Chicago. I think they recorded the Chicago show, but I don't know if they ever used takes from that show.
Lights Out is because that's when he yells out, "Lights out, lights out" in Chicago.
Right. But that could have been overdubbed also, though.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Hey, let's not pee in the Kool-Aid here.
Yeah, man.
Let's let this be my little fantasy.
I know. Well, it's an album that I absolutely love. It's one of my all-time favorite records. It's a little tough to be.
So you think it holds up?
Subjective.
I think it holds up. Absolutely.
You do?
Yeah, I think it does hold up. I think if you, I think it's really a good representation of where the band was in 1978.
I would agree.
Yeah.
To be in fairness to UFO, they didn't have much of very good albums afterwards. Their studio stuff.
That's a good point too.
Their studio stuff took a dive.
Yeah, it did kind of take a dive after that.
I mean, Obsession was their last good album, in my opinion. There are other good albums, but I mean, worthy of calling them, the classics.
Mm-hmm.
Force It and Lights Out, phenomenal. You just don't get any better than those albums.
No.
Yeah, and I mean everything after that had its moments. I mean, there's good tracks on No Place to Run. There's no good tracks on Wild, Willing, and Innocent. And I would maybe say Wild, Willing, and Innocent maybe comes the closest to the classics overall. But I don't think they ever really. If you go back and read about kind of where they were at that point, I mean, they were using a lot of drugs, and you can't keep that up forever. At a certain point, everything just starts to suffer, and I think it kind of all started to unravel at that point.
They put out a whole lot of albums. I mean, they were consistent, and that's not always a good thing when you're, not putting out great material. Mechanics was the last album that I bought. That's when I stopped following them because
that was probably the worst of the bunch, though.
Yeah, and that's probably why I stopped because at that time records were getting a little bit more expensive. They may have been $5 or $6 by that time.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I had moved on to Iron Maiden and a bunch of other heavier bands, I think, and kind of left UFO behind.
And kind of rightly so.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
did have. I didn't take the opportunity, had the opportunity to go see them at the Grove here in Anaheim earlier in the year, and I passed it up because realizing it was their farewell jaunt. you know, but it just, without Michael Shankner, it's not UFO. It's
Nope.
Yeah.
you know, it's just another rock band to me. So,
Yeah.
and no Pete Way. So I don't know if he's.
Yeah. No Pete. Well, that's like the big draw for me. You know, if
Right.
Pete's not there, I'm not kind of too.
No, Jim's not going. If Pete Way's not there, Jim's not going.
Oh, God. I mean, and at one point it was really just Phil and some other guys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was called UFO, but I think he was the only original guy that was kind of left doing it. They had a different drummer. They had Tommy McClendon playing guitar and different bass player. And absolutely not.
Now, Jerry, what about you? What's your favorite track on that album?
My favorite cut, well, there's, like I said, I like the whole album. But the intro to Cherry, and I always ask Jim about this, I believe it's the first time I ever heard somebody play chords on a bass. And I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I noticed another note I wrote down is on Let It Roll. I believe that's the first time I ever heard double bass drums, you know, machine gun style.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Keith Moon played his double bass, but not like that. And I believe those were two firsts for me. And, of course, you know, the guitar solo in Rock Bottom. Oh, I could listen to that.
And that how long is that song? That's a 7 or 8 minute song.
I believe, yeah, it's right up there. It's right up there. And on revisiting the album, I had forgotten. I had forgotten how wonderful that guitar solo in Rock Bottom is. But I like the whole album, guys. I don't have any least favorites. I really like them all. I really do. Good live album. Good, solid live album, I say.
And you feel it holds up the test of time, and it's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then the reason I say, and I ask you both, is it held up the test of time? How many times in the last 6 months have you listened to it?
Well, I listened to it this week.
I listened to the hell out of it this week. Yeah. I mean, I already had it in my library, so that's something. I mean, I had it there. But you're right. It's been a while, Frank. You're right.
The reason I say that, and I'm not putting it down because I do like the album. It does have its shortcomings, like I say, with the keyboards here and there for me.
Yeah.
You know what? I still listen to Frampton Comes Alive. I still listen to Double Live Gonzo. I still listen to Kiss Alive 1 and 2. I still listen to Led Zeppelin. The song remains the same.
Yes.
You know, those albums to me, and again, I like the rock. The harder, the better. Those are live albums that stand the test of time.
I would agree. I like those. Those are all good live albums, actually. Yeah.
For me, UFOs, Strangers in the Night is something good to go back and kind of review and reminisce over. But it's not in my rotation. You know, and that's just a personal preference on my part.
Yeah, it's not in my rotation, but when I went back and listened to it, I wasn't like, oh man, what did I ever see in this? You know, it was
Same
like,
here,
oh,
Jim.
yeah, it's still great. It's still great.
Same here, Jim. I enjoyed it all over again.
That's all right. Now, who picked Strangers in the Night? Was that you, Jerry, that picked that?
Yeah, you put me on the spot, Frank. Last week, hey Jerry, what's our next album for next week? And I don't know how that popped in. I don't know why, but I don't know. The rock and roll gods, perhaps. I don't know. But I remember you put me on the spot. Now that's what I spit out. So I'll take it.
Was not a bad pick at all. So
I appreciate it.
Let's move forward to the next episode. Jim, what do you say?
Okay, well, since you let Jerry pick last time, I assumed that I was going to get my shot to say. And I have, for the last, 2 weeks, mulling this over again and again and thinking of what album would I choose. And I am going to pick Led Zeppelin's untitled fourth studio album.
Oh, Zoso. It's funny you say that, Jim, because, you know, I was thinking, what was the album right before that or right after that? Houses of the Holy?
Yeah.
That was the album I would have picked, Houses of the Holy. But since you've got Led Zeppelin 4.
Wow.
I specifically picked it because Stairway to Heaven is on it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see what everybody has to kind of say about that song, I think.
Well, it's
good album.
Plenty to discuss on that album because there's a lot more to that album than Stairway to Heaven.
Yes, there is.
So,
but it's the one song everybody remembers, talks about. If you're not a Zeppelin fan, it is the one probably Zeppelin song you would know.
Absolutely.
And it is the one song that you are forbidden from playing at Guitar Center. So
Yes.
Now you guys know that more than I would, but yeah, please don't start with that lick.
no, that's a good album. We'll be revisiting Led Zeppelin 4.
I love it.
And to our listeners, if you have any feedback or questions, please get a hold of us at jfjshow@gmail.com. If you're a band or a musician and you'd like us to give your music a listen, give us an email, and we will definitely get back to you. We've gotten a little bit of feedback from some of our feelers that we put out, and you have to know, guys, not everything's going to make the show.
No worries.
And we still have to be out there looking for our own also.
Yes, we do.
So with that, Jim, you have anything you want to say to wrap it up?
No, just always great talking music with you guys. I was a little surprised by your lack of love for Strangers in the Night, but all in all, I think that's kind of, there's got to be, I like the differences of opinion, here with.
Yeah, that's why we do this, guys. I kind of like that a little tingly electric piano in certain parts of the album, I mean, it takes me back to the late 70s, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what it is, too. It's very, very dated.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like the album, don't love it. That's all.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Jerry, how about you? You got anything?
No, Jim and Frank, as usual. It's always great talking music with you guys. And hooray for episode number 2. And let's get into Led Zeppelin 4 next podcast, guys.
It sounds like a winner. And I think what we need to do is get a GoFundMe page for Jerry so that we can get a computer class.
Well, then I'll work on it this week, guys. I'll work on it this week because I'm looking at my PC right now. I have a 24-inch Dell touchscreen, so there's no lack of PC power here. I just usually do everything from the phone. So no, I'll get that up and running. We'll get something going on the PC. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, everybody, I want to sign off, say good night. Thank you for listening to the JFJ Conspiracy, and we'll get you next time.
Take care, everybody. Keep rocking and rolling.
So long.